All the rage today has been the discussion of Trump's pick of J.D. Vance to be his vice presidential running mate. And I think that we have given the subject some pretty good coverage here. But I wanted to get the perspective, and I wanted to share with you the perspective of someone who is more of a professional in these matters of Catholicism, and that is my friend Eric Sammons, who is the editor of 1 Peter 5 and also the editor of Crisis Magazine. And Eric and I have kind of gotten to know each other. It was great to see you at the People's Convention.
And to finally meet you in person. I'm old enough that matters to me. I know all these young people, if it's online, it counts, but not for me. I need to meet somebody in person for it really counts for me. So it was great to see you.
It was great to see you too. And just for the kind of recap a little bit, Eric had gone to the People's Convention, and this is not well known. Turning Point USA has kind of thought that it's just kind of like ecumenical or secular, if you will. But Eric had gone there to do a workshop with Jack Posobiec, right?
Yes, that's right. But because of Secret Service shutting everything down, Jack actually ended up he was stuck by the Secret Service, and he couldn't actually make our workshop. He was down in, I don't know if you remember how they kicked everybody out because of security breach. Well, he was in the group that was actually down there when it happened, and they I don't know, sanctioned him off with another group of people, and so he didn't have his phone with us, so we're like, where is he? And afterwards he was just like, he felt awful, Jack did, because he was like, I was stuck. I mean, what am I going to do? I'm like, yeah, I don't blame you.
Okay, so I want to talk just for a minute. I want to stay on the subject here because, and I've been talking about I talked about it yesterday at great length. You saw it, I saw it. When the Secret Service thinks that there's a breach, there's no games being played. They kicked us out of the hall. For an hour and a half, we stood there while they re-swept that hall because the DPD let some of their buddies in through the back door, as the story went. And then on the floor the night that you and I and Bug Hall watched Trump speak, you saw those Secret Service agents eagle-eyeing people, right?
Yes, not only that, I actually saw up in the rafters a Secret Service agent, a sniper, I assume, who was ready to go. There was you didn't even want to make a joke about anything around them because they were very serious. Like you said, I think I heard 4 people entered through a back door because the local police let them in. And once the Secret Service found that out, everybody go. Everybody, they cordoned off somebody, they took it very seriously, which they should. Obviously, they were doing their job. Which, of course, is what makes me just scratch my head at what happened on Saturday.
And anyone that's ever been to an event where the Secret Service has worked will share the same story pretty much. And if we're to believe what the Trump campaign is saying, that even at that event, they had asked for more security. So we didn't even get the full treatment. You and I.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is, like, we were there the day before, like you were, and there is security, but the palpable difference between security the day before when Secret Service wasn't there because Trump wasn't there, and the day that Trump was there was so noticeable. It wasn't. I mean, it was just like I said, they had security the first day, but it's like basic security. Once Secret Service came, it was like ridiculous security. So, I mean, yeah, it just doesn't make any sense. It does make some sense if you really think about it, but like why what happened on Saturday.
And I'll tell you something else, one more thing on that. Friday evening, Secret Service came through and told the people running the People's Convention, tell them to get out.
Right.
They have to get out now. We had a curfew, basically. So
right.
The night before, Bug Hall and I and Bob Kopka, we were told, no, you guys can't stay here and set your thing up for tomorrow. You got to get out now. And the Secret Service started at the back of the hall and started working their way towards us. So we were basically told, you have to leave. And no one argued with it because we know why they wanted us to leave, right? There was no argument.
Right.
I didn't put up an argument here. I'm just getting to the point here that these people the good agents are very thorough. And obviously that event was very well planned. And the one in Butler, Pennsylvania apparently was not.
That's right, and it was a disaster.
Okay, J.D. Vance. I saw something that you responded to someone on Twitter, and I thought it was the comment of the day when she goes, "Yeah, but I'm not taking I'm not taking the lesser of two evils. We're Catholics, and we don't ever do the lesser of two evils." And Eric Sammons, you're the editor of Crisis Magazine. I thought so. I want to start there. What did you tell her in your own words?
Well, basically, I said we live in a very degenerate culture in which we are the extreme minority. I mean, extreme minority. The number of people who are faithful, traditional Catholics, and by traditional, I just mean like, I don't even mean like you have to attend TLM. I just mean like basically believe in traditional Catholicism as has always been taught. We're in a very extreme minority. One party is psychotic and wants to destroy us. They're basically want to eliminate us from the equation. The other party completely rolls over for the degeneracy. 100% rolls over to the degeneracy. But they will basically leave us alone. And they will basically allow us to raise our kids in the faith. And to me, it's like, I'm not praising either option as the next coming of, yesterday was the feast of St. Henry II, Holy Roman Emperor.
Yep.
We're not talking about that. What we're talking about basically is which one will allow me to live in my community and raise my kids such that I don't have to worry about constantly being potentially my kids being exposed to just degeneracy and awfulness all the time, and it basically them coming after me. And I realize that's a very low bar. I'm not like claiming that this is something we should be excited about.
Right.
We should be wanting to completely change the culture and make it where, all life is valued, where marriage is between a man and a woman, all this stuff. I mean, I'm not saying we should stop trying to do that, but my point is we have to recognize the moment. And the moment is that one side wants to completely destroy us. The other side will basically leave us alone. And that's basically my argument for why we should vote for the side that wants to leave us alone.
By the way, that painting over your right shoulder there, you should tell those people that there is no indication in tradition that you're supposed to bow your head during the Angelus. I just thought I would mention that. Since it's come up lately that there's no mention in tradition of bowing heads anywhere. So
that's right.
Okay, let's talk about J.D. Vance. Okay, if I was telling the audience, okay, if I had come to you 2 weeks ago, audience, and I just said, and I just started listing the things that J.D. Vance has said and the things that he has done, and I just said, what do you think about this guy as candidate for vice president? You probably, without me telling you his name, you'd have gone like, yeah, why not? Absolutely. Yesterday, it was almost as though Trump picked Biden himself to be his running mate. I mean, the vitriol and just the anger and the rage of people over the selection here. I'm trying to understand it. I'm trying not to demonize anyone. I'm trying to wrap my head around why such a reaction. But it was a complete and total surprise to me. You?
Yeah, I mean, not really anymore because I will say I have grown frustrated with I probably maybe I shouldn't say this, but I will with what I call big pro-life. You have big pharma, you have big tobacco, big pro-life, where it seems to be almost like it's their job to just get as upset as possible if somebody isn't 100% pure, and because that keeps them in business. And I feel like it completely doesn't recognize our current moment. And one thing that really changed my views on this a bit was here in Ohio, where J.D. Vance is. I actually heard J.D. Vance speak out against our Amendment 1, which was to make abortion basically in the Constitution a right all 9 months. It was awful. Right. Worse than actually the scenario under Roe v. Wade, believe it or not, for Ohio. J.D. Vance was very strongly opposed to it. I went to a rally where he very strongly spoke against it. But the fact is that the bad guys won. It won easily, this awful amendment. And that was like a moment for me where I realized, okay, recognize where we are. We just had a relatively red state, Ohio. I mean, we're a pretty conservative state in a lot of ways, especially just like our ethos has always been very conservative. And we just voted pretty handily to enshrine abortion into our Constitution. And that's what made me realize, okay, our work here is not, okay, let's nitpick over every politician who isn't going to save us anyway, but we have so much more fundamental work to do. And so to get upset and I literally saw somebody say that Vance was as bad as Biden on abortion.
Yes.
That is just frankly a lie. I mean, it's just a lie. Biden wants every abortion for everybody at all times. I mean, I don't think Biden himself does anymore, but because he doesn't know anything. But the point is, his team, they want abortion on demand without apology and all 9 months, all that. J.D. Vance is squishy on some of this. Let's be honest. You know, when he came out and kind of said, yeah, let's have the abortion pill is fine, stuff like that. I'm not trying to defend him as some pro-life warrior, yet at the same time, the guy has been consistently talking against abortion. Like I say, he was against Amendment 1 here in Ohio. He is for, I think, if I believe correctly, he's for a federal ban after 15 weeks, which the purists don't like. But it's like, okay, that's a lot of babies that could be saved. So, I mean, the guy is not. I mean, I just don't see how you can portray him as some pro-abortion politician. He's just not. I mean, he's better on abortion than Donald Trump is. And so it just doesn't make any sense to me to when we portray him as just as bad as Biden, we just look like idiots, frankly. We look like fools, and nobody will take us seriously.
Well, I agree with that. And as far as the 15-week ban goes, you know, and there is this thing, and it wouldn't have gotten very far had the bishops squashed it. In 1978, you probably know this story, a woman named Rosemary Ruther took a full-page ad out in the New York Times. This is the worst thing that ever happened to the pro-life movement ever. And the bishops, you know the story, you're not in your head. Okay, Rosemary Ruther takes a full-page ad out in the New York Times claiming that the Pope then was okay with, and Catholic teaching was okay with, exceptions for abortion. And this was the new pro-life position of Catholics, okay? And by the way, how Rosemary Ruther ever became a noticeable Catholic is a story for another day. But Rosemary Ruther comes out with this. She gets Geraldine Ferraro. She gets Mario Cuomo. She gets all the big-name Italian Democrat politicians to sign it, and they publish it. Now, the Holy Father does come out and does send private letters. You'll find this out, and I'm sure you know this part of the story too. The Holy Father does send private correspondence to him. If you don't retract your name, I'm going to excommunicate. I'm going to tell your ordinary to excommunicate you. But the damage was done, and pro-choice Catholic America was born, Eric. And the bishops have done nothing to squash it since. Had the bishops acted in 1978 when that ad came out, we wouldn't be having this conversation today. You think?
I agree completely, because basically the people who were Catholic who wanted to embrace abortion would have had to just everybody know they're not in the church anymore.
Right.
But and of course, the famous Mario Cuomo speech in 1984, I think it was, right, where he talked about personally opposed, and but you know, he's not going to outlaw or anything like that. It just has been a 100% disaster. And that's something we have to realize as pro-lifers, is that the fact is the Catholic hierarchy has failed miserably on this issue for a very long time. And it ended up with Joe Biden as the president, our devout Catholic president. And so it just ends up being a disaster. And so we have to recognize where we are, and we have so much work to do. And so I admit I get frustrated when it's like all of a sudden people treat J.D. Vance as the enemy here, when, yeah, I mean, we're not in a moment where we can demand purity on this. We have to just recognize that we get what we deserve, frankly, from our bishops and on down, being so weak on this, that a guy who said, I mean, here's the other thing is, if you look at what J.D. Vance has said, he has not said rah abortion. He's not said rah for the abortion pill. He's basically said, listen, it's going to be illegal, and we can't do anything about it, and I'm just going to acknowledge that. That's basically what he said. Now, I still think he should more strongly be against it. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying, but it's not like the Biden administration, which has been like, let's shove abortion down everybody's throat as much as possible. He's basically just said, listen, everybody wants this to be legal. There's no chance we're making it illegal. So I'm not going to make an effort to try and make it illegal when it's just going to fail, which, like I said, I'm not saying that's the best position. I'm just saying it's a reality check for us pro-lifers to know where we are.
Eric Sammons is the editor, Crisis Magazine, and 1 Peter 5 on our Dude Maker StreamYard hotline here. Let me just then reset the table kind of for this then. Vance will get his moment tomorrow night. Now, we don't know what he's going to say when he says, I accept your nomination to be vice president. You don't know what's going to be contained in the speech here. So maybe there will be some clarity, and maybe he will make a very strong case for himself as a guy that was opposed to Ohio 1, that went to the rallies and remains opposed to it, et cetera, et cetera. It may be, though, just don't do any more damage and just don't even mention it. Maybe the tack that he takes. But he'll get his chance to kind of defend himself, if you will, and to promote his choice as vice president. I want to move beyond that. This is why I wanted to talk to Eric Sammons here. Donald Trump, you have an article at Crisis Magazine today. It says, Why Trump? By Cheryl Colmer. And the hatred for Donald Trump goes far beyond policy differences. Why Trump? Okay, so read the article, crisismagazine.com, and I can give you the reasons of why Trump. But let's look at the Trump, MAGA, America First. Trump, MAGA, America First is all rooted in Catholicism. There's not a member of that coterie of men. Stan Evans, William Buckley. You go down the list of those guys in the 1950s that came out of the post-World War era. Every single one of them was a Catholic. All of them. So the doctrine basically of America First and of Make America Great Again is a very Catholic argument here. Now, that doesn't mean that you sign off on the prosperity gospel, because most people think, what are you, prosperity gospel? That's you don't have to do that. But Trump is the most successful politician in the history of the United States to go all in on America First. We know that Patrick J. Buchanan was the most successful previously and ran for president 3 times, right? Might have even given Bush the presidency in 2000 if he doesn't run. So we know that there were good Catholic thought that's gone into this. Why shouldn't we be ecstatic that Trump has chosen by every other means, push abortion to the side? J.D. Vance is the most conservative Catholic in the United States Senate, maybe the most conservative Catholic in the United States Senate ever. Why should he's young, he's 39. This is Trump taking the baton going, I'm going to hand it to the Catholic boy because I think he's going to do right. Why shouldn't we be ecstatic about this?
I'm with you, Mike, because again, it's about realism. Who were the potential picks that Trump was going to go? Let's be honest. The worst thing about Trump's first presidency is the people he picked.
Yes.
And I don't think there's any debate on that. He picked some bad people. And so we knew that was possible, that he could pick another bad pick here. We didn't know because he hadn't had a chance to pick anybody yet. And so now we have another chance. Okay, will he do a better job? Look at real estate. And I know some people were trying to be like, oh, he might pick, General Flynn. That was never going to happen. Wake up. He's going to pick somebody like a Marco Rubio or that guy in North Dakota. I can't remember his name. He's so insignificant.
Doug Burgum.
Yeah, Burgum. Thank you. People like that, of the people that were realistically in the running, there is no question J.D. Vance was the best. I mean, just the best, because I don't think he was going to pick Ramaswamy either. And there's I like Ramaswamy a lot, but there's some issues there as well, of course. But J.D. Vance, he has been the one. Like, who was the first senator to really come out against the funding of the unlimited funding of Ukraine? It was J.D. Vance. He came out strongly against it, and it was during his campaign for Senate where it could have really hurt him, because there, especially up in Northeast Ohio, there's a strong Eastern European, Ukrainian grouping up there. I mean, it could have really hurt him, but he came out strongly against it. He actually had the quote where he said, "I don't really care what's happening in what happens in Ukraine," which he got hammered for, but it's actually the right position to have, in the sense that there's no American interest here. And so J.D. Vance was the one who came out against it. That wasn't any of the other people they were picking that Trump was looking at was like that. So this is a guy who is truly America first. Now, I'm not a fan of his position on Israel, but honestly, they're all terrible on that, in my opinion. So it's kind of like that's a wash. But I think in so many ways, J.D. Vance does have a very Catholic ethos, a conservative Catholic way of looking at the role of government. And I think we should be as conservative Catholics, if we're not happy about Vance, I think we're living in a fantasy land of thinking he's going to pick somebody that he just wasn't going to pick. So I think, yes, we should celebrate this as a big win. And it's like, I really do think Trump seems to be surrounded by Catholics. It's getting more and more clear.
Isn't it?
It is. And so I pray that, and I had a whole podcast about this yesterday about, I really believe Our Lady of Fatima was involved in saving him on Saturday. It was a anniversary of one of her apparitions where she talks about peace in the world and avoiding war and the consecration and conversion of Russia, all these things. And I do believe that. And I believe, and my prayer is that Trump himself responds to that grace and realizes it, and he becomes Catholic. Obviously, that's the goal I hope all Catholics would have, is that and hope that he would become Catholic and really let that be a thing that happens. So I really do think he's very surrounded by Catholics, and I think that's a good thing. And I'm hoping that, being very close to J.D. Vance, who, he just converted 5 years ago. That's so right. He has a certain zeal of a convert still. And, the chrism still smells a little bit in J.D. Vance. So it's like the hope is that they can rub off on Trump and Trump's family. And we all know the issues of Trump and his family, some of their moral life and things like that. But that's the hope is, though, because nobody's beyond redemption. Nobody's beyond God's grace. And so I really hope that has an impact politically, but also personally for Donald Trump and for members of his family.
Okay, we're out of time here, but I have 30 seconds. I can shower you with a couple of goodies here. You're in 333 or 330 AD, and this really conservative guy. His name is Ambrose, and he picks this young guy and he baptizes him, and his name is Augustine. And you go like, come on, man. This is the worst Catholic in all of Rome. How in the world could you have picked Augustine, right? So you just want to put people in the proper perspective. And one more thing, we will know that Mass will be said every Sunday. If he can't get out, Mass will be said in the White House. It'll be a Latin Mass. The Vance family will be praying a rosary every single day. Our Lady will be there. I say that's a win. Eric, I got to go. I'm out of time. Thank you so much for being with us, brother. Always good to see you.
Great seeing you, Mike. Thanks so much for having me.
All right.